Console gamers have been forced to pay console manufacturers an additional fee every month to access the multiplayer modes of games they already bought. Being locked out of online features is inconceivable to PC players who have long ridiculed console gamers for putting up with this extortion. It was Microsoft that pioneered this wretched imposition, a trend which Sony joined as soon as they could by exploiting the success of the PlayStation 4 to gate multiplayer access behind their monthly paid subscription, PlayStation Plus. This is how Sony justified this imposition. The main pillar for the PS4 will be online play. This is ironic considering the PlayStation 4's victory is often attributed to its stellar library of single-player exclusives. We're developing many new ways to play and connect, which requires a large investment of resources. Considering the cost, to try to keep such a service free and consequently lower the quality would be absurd. We decided that if that's the case, then it'll be better to receive proper payment and continue to offer a good service. You offered a perfectly good service with multiplayer on PlayStation 3, and you didn't charge an additional fee then. To be fair, Sony's imposition wasn't absolute, as players wouldn't need to pay for PlayStation Plus to access online features of free-to-play titles. It took Microsoft almost 8 years to match this policy. In April 2021, Microsoft allowed Xbox users to access free-to-play games without paying for Xbox Live Gold. This was a step in the right direction, though this also highlights the stark absurdity of having to pay an additional fee every month just to access features of a product you have already paid for. PC players would never put up with such extortion, and Microsoft knows this. In fact, Microsoft publicly acknowledged this when they returned to the PC market in 2015. Xbox Live Gold will not be required for online multiplayer using our service on Windows 10 PCs and phones. Microsoft knew the imposition of a multiplayer subscription on computer games would spark a monumental backlash that would destroy their attempt to return to the PC market. Why haven't console gamers taken a cue from this? Some of them even pointed out the pointless inequity of having to pay to play online when Microsoft announced PC players will be spared this extortion. To be fair, it was outcry from console gamers that forced Microsoft to cancel a hike they had announced to Xbox Live Gold pricing. It's easy to see why Xbox users reacted so strongly to the announcement. It's remarkably tone-deaf, even for a soulless megacorporation. We invest in our community by strengthening the digital safety of our players, enabling new ways to share, communicate and play with your friends, and delivering industry-leading reliability across our network. This is patently ridiculous, and anyone who has experience with Xbox Live knows it. In fact, this paragraph describes the exact opposite of the Xbox Live experience, as this video will subsequently demonstrate. Xbox Live is the worst game platform in the industry, and it's only getting worse. Understandably, the prospect of having to pay even more money every month infuriated Xbox users to such a degree that Microsoft backtracked on the hike and even announced the removal of the subscription requirement to play free-to-play titles. While the hike was cancelled, Xbox Live Gold was not, and console users still need to pay $10 every month to play the multiplayer modes of games they have already purchased.
Here's an update from the channel's writer and video producer. Microsoft renamed Xbox Live Gold to Xbox Game Pass Core after I wrote the script, but this video will continue to refer to it as Xbox Live Gold, as that is what it was known as for most of its existence. Calling it Xbox Live Gold is also historically accurate for the period analyzed in this video and avoids confusion with the original Game Pass, the subscription that offers temporary access to an extensive game collection. Let's get back to the subject of console manufacturers requiring a monthly payment to access multiplayer functionality.
Do Microsoft and Sony even have a reason to be charging this fee? Are they providing any service in exchange? Is the revenue Microsoft receives from Xbox Live Gold actually being used to provide multiplayer functionality for Xbox consoles? If Xbox Live Gold is truly being used to support multiplayer features, why did EA charge console players a $10 fee for online functionality in the early 2010s? The whole idea is that we're paying for servers. If you create a new account, there is a big process on how that is being handled in the back end. We would rather have you buy a new game than a used game because buying a used game is only a cost to us. We don't get a single dime for a used game, but we still need to create server space and everything for you. We want people to at least pay us something to create this because we're paying for it. It was actually a loss for us to have new players. Hang on, Why wasn't Microsoft paying for servers and handling accounts in the back end? It's not like they'd have to pay another company to do it. Their Azure division is one of the major players in the cloud hosting market and should be capable of handling the Xbox network. Wasn't that the whole point of players paying a monthly fee for Xbox Live Gold? Didn't players who bought Xbox Live Gold already pay for multiplayer? Apparently not, considering Microsoft charges developers substantial fees if they want Microsoft to handle multiplayer services. Microsoft is not as cooperative as Steam, which offers to handle all multiplayer functionality with Steamworks as part of the 30% cut they keep from game sales. Microsoft keeps the same 30% cut, but developers have to pay extra if they want Microsoft to handle game servers under Microsoft's Azure PlayFab platform. This is what Microsoft's website says to developers. Games that require multiplayer servers must purchase additional capacity through PlayFab's consumption pricing plan. Below are the PlayFab resources that are used to bill for server utilization. Virtual machine instance hours, the hours of virtual machine time that your game servers are utilizing. Network egress, the volume of data transmitted by your game servers to the internet in gigabytes. Network egress can be a substantial expense, especially for larger multiplayer sessions with many simultaneous connected players, 32+. Why must developers spend anything when they already pay 30% of their revenue from the Xbox store to Microsoft, who also charges console players $10 every month supposedly for Xbox multiplayer? This just indicates that Microsoft and now Sony aren't really providing multiplayer functionality. They're just holding multiplayer hostage for a monthly ransom. To make matters even worse, you might not get the access you're paying for, even if you paid their ransom for reasons accidental and deliberate. Both Microsoft and Sony have decommissioned online functionality, despite charging a monthly fee for that exact purpose. Despite calling online play the main pillar of PlayStation 4 to justify forcing players to pay for PlayStation Plus subscriptions, Sony has shut down multiplayer services for several games including Drive Club, Killzone Shadowfall, Star Blood Arena, and Hardware Rivals. These were first-party titles developed by Sony subsidiaries for Sony's console, meaning the decision to maintain or decommission their functionality was entirely up to Sony. Hardware Rivals, Star Blood Arena, and Shadowfall's Intercept expansion were multiplayer exclusives, and so were rendered completely unplayable. Shadowfall was the last Killzone game ever released, meaning there is no way to play Killzone multiplayer anymore. These were games Sony developed and sold to consumers, who then had to pay Sony $10 every month for the multiplayer. Yet Sony decided to deprive the customers of the games they had bought and were paying an additional fee for every month. What's the point of paying Sony for online functionality if they aren't using that money to maintain the multiplayer modes of the games they made for their platform? Microsoft is no better, as they've terminated multiplayer functionality of the original Halo games, the titles that made this franchise a flagship for the Xbox. Fans might argue that these titles have been superseded by the Halo Master Chief Collection, which retains the multiplayer modes of all Halo games incorporated into this remaster. Furthermore, the Master Chief Collection is included in the Xbox Game Pass, though you still need to pay for Xbox Live Gold if you want to play multiplayer on Microsoft's consoles. Even if you do buy Xbox Live Gold, Microsoft may still deprive you of the access you paid them for. Microsoft will accuse you of violating the community standards to justify suspending your access. The silver lining is that the notification of suspension details the exact cause of the ban, which makes it easy to demonstrate how unwarranted these suspensions are. For instance, this user received a suspension for saying "casuos," which refers to casual doubles. He was just looking for a group to play Rocket League with and received a suspension for this. Let's look at another example to ensure this isn't an isolated incident. This user was banned for 2 days. What did he do to trigger this punishment? He looked for a group and said Athena Emissary, Grade 5 Voyagers and Veil, on a PC server but playing Xbox. The user who was suspended didn't think he deserved it, and so tried to appeal it by contacting Xbox support, who told him there was no way to contact the enforcement team. This is alarming considering the kind of nonsense that triggers suspensions. He was told he could do nothing but wait out the ban. Let's look at a third example. This user was banned in November for a post he made in July. Apparently, Microsoft didn't like what he said while he looked for a group. Can anyone get me to the center of the galaxy on permadeath? My glyph quest broke. Xbox Live banned this GTA player for saying, "KO, you get 15%, know what you're doing," while he looked for a group. The The user could not communicate with others or join multiplayer sessions while this suspension was active. This Destiny 2 player looked for groups and was banned for 2 days twice, preventing this user from joining multiplayer games. Xbox Live banned this user for saying, "Help me sell gun running," while he looked for a group, preventing him from accessing online features for the duration of his punishment. You might think you can avoid these unwarranted suspensions by boycotting the looking for group feature. Think again. This user was banned for using a gamer picture that Microsoft deemed inappropriate. This was the picture that triggered the ban. I know some people don't like the anime art style, but a ban seems pretty extreme. Even if you don't upload your own picture, you may still get in trouble. This user was banned for 8 days for using a player picture he bought from Microsoft 10 years ago. In fact, the Xbox Store continues to sell this picture for $1 at the time of making this video in 2023. The 8-day suspension prevented this user from going online, rendering the Series S unable to play anything. He appealed it, and the subsequent investigation only reduced his ban by 24 hours. Ironically, this user was an Activision employee whose job was to ban players. Guess he got a taste of his own medicine. As an employee of Activision, this user had corporate access to Microsoft as he dealt with them every day. This employee tried to leverage this access to resolve this account suspension. How did that go? 1 hour later, the Activision employee was threatened with a permaban on both account and system for using this picture. This is no idle threat, as users have been permanently banned without being told why. For example, this user was permanently banned and was subsequently prevented from accessing support from the suspended account. This forced him to make a new account just to contact support, who told him that he had to speak to the enforcement team. He was also told there was no way to contact the enforcement team. Following his attempts to contact support, his Microsoft account was locked and he was told that he will no longer be able to access any services that require a Microsoft account. This is the fate the Activision employee was threatened with. 9 hours after receiving the threat, the Activision employee was not allowed to sign into Microsoft and Xbox websites, preventing him from contacting support as you need to be signed in to do so. If this is what happened to an employee who had corporate access to Microsoft, what hope do you have, the average consumer, of exoneration should you be unjustly banned? Remember the second reason Microsoft cited to justify increasing the price of Xbox Live Gold? Enabling new ways to share, communicate, and play with your friends. Again, the reality of the Microsoft experience is the opposite of Microsoft's marketing claims. You might think you're safe if you don't play on the Xbox consoles. Think again. This user was banned for 4 days for messaging, though the ban notification did not specify the message that triggered the ban. This user also appealed to Xbox support to no avail. He was also told there was no way to contact the enforcement team. This user played Game Pass titles on a PC, and this ban prevented him from playing online games like Fallout 76. Remember, the only reason the Xbox Game Pass is so affordable is Microsoft's attempt to court PC players back after abandoning them during the Xbox 360 era. This is why the introductory $1 offer is only available for PC Game Pass and Game Pass Ultimate, for these are the only plans that are relevant to PC users. Game Pass for console and Xbox Live Gold do not offer this $1 for your first month deal. Microsoft feels no need to throw console consumers a bone as they're already cornered. This is what awaits PC users once Microsoft achieves its goals for Game Pass on PC. Microsoft is literally banning consumers who paid for Xbox features for using those features in their intended purpose. Even if you get lucky and escape unwarranted suspensions, you could still get locked out of the multiplayer access you pay for. The Xbox Live network has often gone dark for hours, rendering customers unable to play multiplayer, look for groups, or chat with parties. This should be embarrassing for a corporation that has an entire division dedicated to cloud hosting, Azure. Microsoft has made Xbox even worse by imposing always online DRM on their consoles, resulting in Xbox network outages, also locking players out of the single-player games they bought as a DRM cannot check if the game requires a connection to Xbox servers while the servers are down. Despite these crippling outages, Microsoft saw fit to brag about delivering industry-leading reliability across our network as one of their justifications for hiking the price of Xbox Live Gold. It gets worse, as it always does with Microsoft, as even when you do get access you're paying for, other people also get access to you. Way too much access. Xbox users have long had to put up with malicious trolls obtaining their IP addresses from Xbox Party chat. Console consumers have been complaining about this for years, only for Microsoft to recommend contacting local police if customers felt uncomfortable with random strangers reading their IP. Users have reason to feel uncomfortable, as trolls have used IP sniffers to build a public database of Xbox users and their IP addresses. This X-Resolver database allows anyone to find the IP address of an Xbox user if they know the user's gamertag, and it also allows anyone to find the gamertag of an Xbox user if they've already discovered that player's IP address. The shadiest thing about this database is its business model. If you're uncomfortable with your IP address being exposed to anyone who knows your gamertag, you can pay this database $13 to remove your information from public view. Microsoft has enabled this blackmail business model through their disgraceful negligence and disregard for their customers' concerns and safety. This is a serious problem, as hackers use the IP addresses they obtain from Xbox Live to disconnect Xbox users' internet connections using programs like Low Orbit Ion Cannon that overwhelms their target's network with fake traffic. And if that proves insufficient, engaging network stress testing services to bombard their victims' internet connection until their internet service provider disconnects their internet connection to prevent harm to its entire infrastructure. This safety protocol is called a null route, as the internet service provider sends the traffic to the void. While this does protect the internet service provider, it does so by disconnecting the user from the internet for hours, if not days. Triggering this null route is exactly what the hacker aims to achieve, and it's way too easy and way too cheap. An entire market of network stress testers has emerged to cater to these hackers, and the competition has driven the cost and difficulty down to such a point that stressors charge just $38 to bombard the victim's internet connection for an hour. If these stress testers accept payment in cryptocurrency, it becomes even harder to find the culprits who commission the attacks that knock so many players offline. This is why these distributed denial of service attacks are called offlining and are extremely prevalent in the Xbox console community. It can get even worse for the victims if their internet service provider imposes a limit on data usage, as the flood of traffic from DDoS attack can increase the target's bandwidth usage and run up the clock on overcharges, which can drive up the victim's internet bill, all the while preventing them from accessing that internet for significant periods of time. The only way to resolve a distributed denial of service attack is to obtain a new IP address from the internet service provider. Even if the ISP provides a new IP address, hackers will use programs like Octosniff to find your new IP address and resume the attack until you're offline again. Octosniff supports some of the biggest multiplayer games like PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, FIFA, Red Dead Redemption 2, and Battlefield 5. The only way to keep yourself safe is to never play these games, or any multiplayer games, never join a party and never connect to another player. There is little that game developers can do to prevent these attacks, since hackers obtain the victim's information from Xbox Live, which is operated directly by Microsoft. Developers have called on Microsoft to protect players' information, but clearly these calls have not been heeded. Remember what Microsoft cited as a justification for hiking Xbox Live Gold's price? We invest in our community by strengthening the digital safety of our players. Yeah, right. The problem is, Microsoft sees their customers not as potential victims, but as potential pirates. And if you don't believe this, just watch this presentation by Tony Chen, who worked on Xbox security. Security for the Xbox console, not for Xbox users.
The number one most important thing is we have to maintain control of the CPU execution. And we have to do this against the Xbox owner wanting to physically attack his own box, because the owner himself wants to pirate games and wants to cheat, okay? And that's the fundamental problem. The PC owner is a good guy. He's working with us to prevent his PC from being attacked. The bad guys are the guys out on the internet trying to compromise his PC. So Microsoft, as an operating system vendor, is working with the PC owner to fight the bad guys out on the internet. Okay, on the Xbox, the owner is the attacker. The customer literally going into the store to buy the Xbox. Although the majority of our customers are good, but you have to treat them as the attacker in terms of designing your hardware. And because they want to pirate games, they want to cheat in games, and so you have to be resilient against hardware attacks.
Microsoft does not see its customers as something to be protected, but rather someone that Xbox must be protected from. To that end, the Xbox consoles have been over-engineered to prevent piracy, while very little, if anything, has been done to secure your data. There's nothing game developers can do to protect their players. Even if they run their game on their own dedicated servers, Xbox Live might still leak players' data to other players, even if they're not playing in a peer-to-peer network. PC players don't have to deal with this nightmare with games that use Steamworks, as Steam offers players the choice to use relays to hide their IPs, even if the game uses peer-to-peer networking. The best part is, PC users don't have to pay Steam a monthly fee for multiplayer, and neither do developers. All Steam wants is for developers to release their games on Steam and pay 30% of that revenue, which is the same cut Microsoft demands from games sold on Xbox. Epic doesn't demand anything for the use of their online services, which handles voice chat and matchmaking that connects players across all platforms. Neither users nor developers have to pay Epic a penny to use this service. Speaking of whom, did you know that developers have to code in the requirements for an active Xbox Live Gold subscription? There is nothing stopping games from connecting players by default. This is why free-to-play games do not require players to pay for Xbox Live Gold to play with each other. If the developers didn't code in the subscription barrier, Xbox users would be able to access multiplayer features of games they bought without paying the monthly fee. Microsoft is so lazy, they can't be bothered to code the restriction they mandate. Instead, they force developers to implement this paywall that benefits nobody but Microsoft. If developers do not code that paywall in, Microsoft and Sony will not certify that build for release if it lets people who haven't paid for Xbox Live or PlayStation Plus access multiplayer. That's what console certification is for. Sony and Microsoft don't care if the game actually works for the player. Cyberpunk proved that. Sony and Microsoft just want to make sure that their users don't get to play the game they bought without paying the console manufacturers their ransom every month. Microsoft and Sony do not use that revenue to handle multiplayer functionality. Developers have to build and maintain that foundation or pay Microsoft substantial fees to do it for them. Though they could also use Epic's online services, which offer free voice chat, share accounts and matchmaking across all platforms. Epic's offering for free what Microsoft charges a monthly fee for and doesn't even provide. So to wrap it up, Microsoft holds hostage features of a game you've already bought behind a monthly payment. Even if you pay their ransom, you may not get the access you pay for if their network goes dark, which it does frequently and for hours. Even if the servers are up, Microsoft might ban you for arbitrary reasons that make no sense. Appealing these unwarranted suspensions is unlikely to accomplish anything. If you're lucky enough to evade these random punishments, you might get to enjoy the multiplayer you're paying a monthly fee for. Until your IP is leaked to someone with knowledge and malice to misuse it, at which point Microsoft will helpfully tell you to contact your local police. Yeah, thanks Microsoft. So in a nutshell, don't buy an Xbox. If you do, don't change your profile picture, don't look for a group and never join a party. For the love of God, never ever buy a game on Xbox, for you stand to lose everything you bought should you get banned. Stick to free-to-play games and buy nothing to ensure none of your money goes to the console manufacturer. Whatever you play, say nothing to your peers so as not to provide Microsoft any reason to ban you. Not that Microsoft needs a reason. This is what PC players have to be wary of, as Microsoft makes inroads with Game Pass. Microsoft's exclusive franchises may make Xbox sound like a reputable brand, but it is rotten from the inside and could leave a very bad taste in your mouth.